Hello, I'm back in the dark, mysterious green room here. Haven't bumped into Patrick Stewart yet. Um, I am going to take advantage of the fact that I'm having a mediocre hair day, and I mean that in a good way as opposed to a bad one. Um, and uh, I'm kind of relaxed. It's about 5 a.m. Believe it or not. I don't know what's going on out in the world. The light is already coming through the window slowly. Um, and I'm back with Blue Review. My name's Henry. So, yeah, I want to look at three movies that came out in recent years that I really, really enjoyed, and um, they are all female-centered films. The leads are females. There's, a lot of feminine energy. The divine feminine is in these movies. So, let's see. Which one should I start with? Well, first of all, the one that I have on right now playing in the background. I'll go ahead and give it a whirl. Um, Under the Skin by Jonathan Glazer. Uh, and this one is kind of a one woman piece, really. I mean, there's only really one significant character, and that is Esserly, played by none other than Scarlett Johansson. And this is a science fiction film. The beginning is very creepy, I guess, as she's coming to Earth. Um, and she's going to take over. Well, not take over, but she's going to take on a human form, a more human-looking form. She's a humanoid. Um, so she kind of puts on this skin, which makes her look like Scarlett Johansson. She has a very British accent, and I've got to say it's an impeccable accent. Scarlett, and I've got to say this is Scarlett's best movie that I've seen. I mean, I liked her in Ghost World a long time ago. I even like her as the Black Widow, even though I think Emily Blunt, the original casting, would have been better. Emily's a little older, but much better actress and more physically and temperamentally in line with Natasha Romanoff from the comic books. But Scarlett's done, the role justice, and of course now she's deceased, the character. But the prequel um, to I guess it's the prequel to Infinity War, with her and Robert Downey one last time as Tony Stark, has been delayed because of COVID-19, and it didn't play in the theaters. Allegedly, it's supposed to come out in November in the theaters. I don't know if it will. I haven't really researched it. We're in November. We're on November 5th, and I don't know. Same with New Mutants. New Mutants did actually play in the theater in October finally, but it was very scattered, very small, um, you know, infrequent showings. They didn't show it all in the city of Charlotte, North Carolina. It didn't sit. I don't believe it showed it all in my state. It showed at a few small theaters in South Carolina, which I don't live far from, but I found that very puzzling. Way too far for me though to try to venture out to take a chance on it. The Blu-ray of New Mutants is supposed to come out in November. I forgot. I haven't looked up the exact date. But I'm looking forward to getting that because I have a feeling I'm going to like it sight unseen. I could be wrong, but Bill Sienkiewicz gives it a thumbs up, like Coop, But anyway, back to Under the Skin. So she's on Earth. She's driving this motorcycle, and she kind of goes into town. And basically, in this movie, she's I don't know how to put it really. She's kind of hunting men, and this movie is kind of a slow, languid kind of atmosphere piece, really. The soundtrack is very atmospheric. Um, oh, by the way, I made a mistake. It wasn't her riding the motorcycle, it was the other alien who I think has taken the body of the woman that Scarlet, you know, is going to take her skin. So I think she's dead. So she is dead, yes. So Scarlet takes her skin. I haven't watched this in a while, but I have watched it a few times, so bear with me. Um, yeah, she takes on her skin and her clothing and everything. So brings us to another point about this movie, which really isn't a point, but that's beautifully shot. But I think it's a point to fanboys and, you know, a lot of males and females who enjoy glamour and sexuality on screen, and of course sex symbols in general. Is that Scarlett Johansson finally, that's the fans saying, finally appears completely nude in this movie. Um, and from that point of view, it's not disappointing. She's not engaging in any sex acts. There's not a lot of lingering full frontal shots, but nothing's left to the imagination either. Um, but it's all service of the story. I mean, basically she's stripping this dead woman of her skin and then putting her clothes on. So one step at a time. You got to take the clothes off, get the skin off, put it on, and then put on the clothing. And that's basically what the scene is. But I haven't talked to anybody who's gone crazy about it, but a couple of friends of mine have commented that in the past, when it first came out, that they enjoyed watching that scene. It's a pretty kind of dark scene, though. Really, it's kind of, I mean, it's chiaroscuro lit. There's that word again. Extremely stark black and white. Beautiful, though, beautiful. Anyway, so her character, Esserly, and I'm not really sure, and I don't think they make it clear in the film. Maybe they do in the book it's adapted from. If that's the name of the dead girl whose skin she takes, or if that's the real name of the alien that she is. So she starts luring these men in. Um, she basically just drives around town. Not a lot happens in this movie. She's just tooling around town, picking up dudes, just kind of having a day, and you're not really sure what her motives are, why she's doing this. She's a very inscrutable character, but oddly likable, I guess. I mean, she's a little scary, which I think is part of the point. Um, you know, and there's not a lot of explanation given as far as her friend on the motorcycle. At least not until the very end. There's a little bit of revisiting in that, but for some reason they've come to Earth. They're in this van and they've got this plan, and basically she lures these men in, and basically with the promise of sex, and there's no sex, but she wades on into the thing in different states of undress, and you know they end up wading into this black oily pool of liquid, and the men kind of sink and they don't come back. They're yeah. I don't know what. It's almost like it's another dimension because it's kind of the flip side of where we see when she's putting on the girl's skin. It's a completely white background, and she's just a figure, walking. She's walking apparently grounded on a floor, but you don't see the floor because everything's washed out. It's totally white. So when she envelops these people in this oil, it's like totally black. But she has passage to these two places, and you don't see how they connect to the van she was in. You don't see how they connect with her car or her, where's the portal to this other dimension, or is it another dimension? I think it is another dimension. Um, and I think she's preying on them for some reason, or taking them to this other dimension to give to her planet. Now the thing is, I haven't read the novel. Supposedly the novel makes more of this clear. I would hope so. And supposedly there's also an element of, if I remember correctly, animal liberation themes and text and subtext in it, which appeals to me, but I don't really see any of that in the film. I guess they just snipped that out. So there's not really a whole lot more for me to say about this movie. I love the soundtrack. I love the photography. Scarlett is incredible and formidable. Really nailed that British accent. it's a mood movie. You know, a lot of people are kind of bored by it that I've spoken to, and then other people love it because the vibe, the feel of it, the vibe, and that kind of gets me to, you know, I'm a member on Facebook of this A24 group. A24 is who distributed this film and a lot of other good indie films. Um, and you know, they say when a movie has this kind of feel to it, it has an A24 vibes. And so they'll post things like, what other films that aren't A24 have A24 vibes? So, you know, sometimes it's kind of, you know, some silly discussion, but sometimes it's, you know, pretty worthwhile, uh, you know, things. If you're coming at it from, I'm an A24, I'm loyal to this distributor, you know, like this label, then I want to see stuff like their stuff, and I'm going to watch all their stuff no matter what, even if their stuff doesn't all have the vibes, um, but especially if it has the vibes. So, you know, that's a wide range of films, you know. I've talked about them briefly on my review of First Reformed, I believe. That's my favorite A24 film of the ones I've seen, and this one, Under the Skin, is my second favorite. So I recommend it. That may not be much incentive, but you know. So the next film is Annihilation. I believe that came out in 2018. Yes, 2018, the year of Mandy. And it was my second favorite movie of the year after Mandy. Um, I thought it was incredible. I saw it twice in the theater, and then I've seen it a few times since then. Of course, all of these I own on Blu-ray, or wouldn't be reviewing them here. Um, I got Annihilation like the day it came out on Blu-ray. I was really excited. It stars Natalie Portman, and she's like a scientist of sorts. She was in the military, and she kind of gets hooked up with this project that's her husband was kind of drafted into, and then he disappeared, and then he came back after quite a long time being away, and he didn't act the same. He's extremely odd. Almost acting like he's a different person. So she wants to know what's going on with him, and so she gets involved with this project, and basically it's I think it's called like Area X, I think, is and it's basically there's a place where this thing called the Shimmer, which is this kind of rainbow hued field of energy, and it's kind of gradually consuming everything around it, and it's going so everything on our Earth is that touches is passing into it, and when it passes into it, uh, it alters everything, the the beings who pass through it, human or animal, the vegetation, the earth itself, down to the DNA biomolecular level. So it's pretty cool. A couple of notes real quick. This is based on a novel, I believe, by Jeff Vandermeer. I mean, I know it is, but I just couldn't remember his name for a second. Jeff Vandermeer, who was a pioneer of this movement called the New Weird in fiction. Um, I haven't really talked about this on these videos, and I don't plan on spending much time talking about it, but I have talked about the Lovecraftian scene, and you know, I will say I'm not fond of the New Weird writers as far as their social media presence. I'm generally turned off by their um, ideologies, um, but they're just too. I mean, they wouldn't characterize themselves this way, but I would. They're too right wing for me. I'm too far way out there on a limb for these guys. And Vandermeer, though, I've never interacted with. You know, he was one of the first on like China Mieville and stuff in the early part of the millennium who kind of got this new weird thing going, but it's just a tag, you know. But the recent wave of new weird writers, I really kind of dislike them and their work, you know. So I don't really think about them much. So when I hear something comes about this new weird, I immediately go, oh, the neo weirdos are at it again, and I don't really, you know, I lose interest immediately. But what's interesting is they changed the ending of the book, and Vandermeer said that actually if I'm getting this correct, that the ending for the film was actually better than his book ending. And from what I know, the book ending, I would have to agree. And just based on the Well, I'll get to the ending. I won't give it away, but I want to kind of comment on it because it's important. Obviously, it's one of the more incredible sequences I've seen in recent years in a recent sci-fi film. So, um, Natalie Portman, her character is kind of drafted into this mission, or actually she volunteers because she wants to find out what her husband did and what she was going to, for. And uh, so they get a small group, and it's all women, and it's led by Doctor, who is in charge of the project, played by Jennifer Jason Leigh, and she's as brilliant as ever on screen. Um, and so there's like I believe three other women besides Natalie and Jennifer, and one is played by Tessa Thompson, who I really love. A great recent kind of up and coming star. She was, I guess, a lot of people knew her for being in Creed and Creed 2, but um, a lot of people know her from playing Valkyrie in Thor Ragnarok. I loved her in that movie, and also she played in Sorry to Bother Me, a great movie that if I ever get that on Blu-ray, I will review it. Um, and she also has been a regular on the film TV series Westworld uh, for its entire run. So I mean, her character's gone through various phases of being major. In season 3, she's a very major character, on camera character. But anyway, I love her. I think she has a great range. All these parts I just mentioned are all played completely different from each other, and Annihilation is no exception. She's kind of a bespectacled, kind of science nerd kind of character, and she's very soft spoken, extremely intelligent, scrutinizing everything around her. One of the group is kind of a woman who seems at lost ends. I can't remember what her field of specialty is. She's maybe the oldest member of the group besides the doctor. And then there's a member who is like very militaristic. And they, they pretty much, well, they indicate, yes, she's a lesbian. She's more masculine. She's very attractive, though, but she is more masculine. She's Hispanic. So there's a good balance in the Tessa Thompson, of course, is biracial, and the rest are Caucasian. So there's kind of a little mixture ethnically and also lifestyle wise, etc., sexual orientation among the 5 women characters, but they're all female. So it's pretty cool. And the only male characters that of any import, well, of course, Natalie Portman's husband, played by Oscar Isaac, who um, most people know from Star Wars, playing that character. That guy. He's kind of like the latter day Han Solo guy. I'll remember his name eventually, but he was okay in those movies as far as those movies go. I liked The Last Jedi a lot. I'm the only human alive who did, but I'm not a Star Wars fan, so naturally, The Last Jedi is my favorite Star Wars movie. Go figure. So the one that everyone hates. So um, Oscar Isaac also played in Ex Machina, an A24 film that was directed by the same gentleman who wrote and directed Annihilation, Alex Garland. So I've been getting to him, meaning to get to him. He was a screenwriter. He worked a good bit with Danny Boyle. They did The Beach with Leonardo DiCaprio. Before that, they did 28 Days Later. That's probably what they're most known for collaborating on, Boyle directing and Garland writing. Danny Boyle's work to me is really highly uneven. He's a good craftsman. They also worked on Sunshine together, which I have yet to see, unfortunately. It has Michelle Yeoh and Cillian Murphy, science fiction film, and I really do want to see that. Um, but I think Garland is kind of going in his own little thing here now that he's taken up the director's chair. He's doing these kind of probing, unconventional, very thoughtful science fiction works, and Ex Machina is definitely one. And Oscar Isaac was in that. He played to me anyway, an extremely unlikable scientist character who creates a kind of an automaton-like woman. She's essentially an AI robot, but uh, he brings on another guy to uh, weigh in on the project, and the guy kind of you know, he kind of like comes under the spell of the robot played by Alicia Vikander, who played got recast as Lara Croft, Tomb Raider recently. Great actress, really beautiful. Also, but anyway, so that's kind of where Oscar Isaac and Alex Garland had worked before. So in this one, he plays Kane, who is the husband of our lead character, and he's the only other male character of import other than someone who is kind of, how do you put it, when someone goes into like a radioactive or a toxic area and then they come out and they're detoxified. No, it's not detox. It's like um they're fumigated. No, I don't know, but that's kind of she's under quarantine in the beginning of the film with this guy played by Benedict Wong, who is slightly known for playing Wong. Coincidental. I mean, the character was always named Wong. So it's coincidentally cast an actor last name Wong. It's a common Chinese surname, but um, Benedict Wong played Wong in the Marvel films, Doctor Strange, and the last two Avengers films. Um, anyway, he is kind of, they're all in their hazmat outfits and they're, big kind of, insulated from her, like in case she's brought back radiation from where she's been. And they're kind of, uh, decompressing, debriefing. They're doing those things. Those were some of the words I was grasping for and not clutching onto. Um, and so she tells the story, and then we go backward into the whole, plot. Um, so they decide to go into this thing called the Shimmer. Uh, the other thing I wanted to mention beyond the resumes of the people involved and the background of the book is that the book itself, the central idea is pretty much the same as the novel Roadside Picnic, the Russian science fiction novel, which was adapted into arguably, other than Solaris, the most famous Russian science fiction film, in the West, Stalker. And Stalker is just a breathtaking work. I don't know how to describe it in a capsule here. I may review it at some point too. I have the Criterion Blu-ray of that as well. Um, I'm a big Stalker fan, and basically in Stalker, these three guys, three males, they go into this thing called the Zone, and nobody's really come back from the Zone, and the people that have, weird things have happened, and um, basically our main guy, who's called a stalker, which basically he's a guide to the other two characters going through through the Zone. It's called the Zone in the Stalker. It's called Shimmer in Annihilation. So they go into the Zone, and when the stalker makes it back, he's been in the Zone before, and when he makes it back, they realize that his daughter has acquired some kind of mutation from him being in the Zone, and it's very understated. It's very minimalist. Your mind has to fill in a lot of the gaps on this stuff in Stalker. Annihilation, there's quite a bit of exposition supplied by Jennifer Jason Leigh's doctor, and so you kind of get the vibe that the Shimmer, not necessarily what it is, because they're not exactly sure, but they believe it manifested from outer space or from another dimension, and it will consume all of Earth in a matter of time. So it's slowly creeping. So this Area X has been sealed off by the military and scientists, and uh, this is going to be their kind of do or die mission. They're going to kind of find out what happened to the mission that Kane, Oscar Isaac's character, came back from. Um, it's kind of like Cannibal Holocaust. In the beginning, the professor and some dudes like go into the jungle and they want to find out what happened to the four characters who were filming in the Amazon with real cannibal tribes, and they want to come back and find out. They really bring their film back to develop to see what really happened to these people. There's definitely a little echo of that in this movie. They get into the shimmer, and there's a lot of mutated things. The plants, landscapes. It's very beautiful. It's basically like cross pollination of things. In other words, like trees can look like humanoid people, and there's crystalline objects, and basically all the DNA of these things is mixed together, and it's starting to happen to the people too. They're starting to sense it, but before they really become really sold on that, of what is happening, that is happening to them too, they find some found footage, and it's of Kane, and um, one of the men on his crew. It was an all-male military crew. Uh, he felt like his guts were moving inside him, and they open him up, and they're kind of seething, and it's kind of bizarre, kind of a serpentine. His intestines, and Kane takes a knife and has kind of a weird psycho look on his face, and you don't really know what happened, but there is remains of what's probably the man that they cut open, his skull and parts of his body with plants and flowers and things uh, kind of juxtaposed into a wall that is in the room where they find the cassette, the camcorder tape to watch. Beautiful set piece, creepy. All the set pieces are fantastic. I mean, not set piece. I guess that's not really the right word. Or is it? Well, it's a great mise-en-scène. It's an incredible production design all around. I mean, it's just you get the feeling of what's happening. That this force and the shimmer is reshaping this world, and it begins to reshape our protagonists. And probably the signature scene that everyone talks about a lot, and with really good reason, uh, is very suspenseful, is when they encounter, um, they've already encountered some animals, including a crocodile that began to attack them, who were mutated and had aspects of other um, living things inside of it. It was altered to the genetic level. Um, so a similar thing happens in that they um, become was that one of the crew, the older woman, besides Jennifer Jason Leigh, who's kind of, I believe, distraught and in grief over her daughter dying, I think was her backstory. Um, she is apparently attacked by a bear, and so that takes care of that. But they don't see her anymore. But um, the bear comes back, and it's been altered. The unfortunate thing is, though, by this time, the um, military, the very commando-like chick, who's the lesbian Hispanic character, she's uh, getting really paranoid. She refuses to believe what she saw on the tape, that the guy's intestines were moving. She's like, "It's a trick of the light. It's a trick of the light," which is, that's so corny and cliched, but I think that's deliberate. It's that her character has nothing to offer other than a cliche, because she's in total denial. Like, this is physically impossible. But that's the point. All this stuff is physically impossible. So, the shimmer defies the laws of physics. And basically, she gets paranoid and ties up the other three characters, and she's about to torture and possibly kill them. She feels like there's some kind of conspiracy against her, and she's very paranoid. But then the bear comes, and the bear is not the same as it was when it was out there and right before it attacked the other woman. And the bear is a bit mutated. It's a bear body wise, but it's got like a skull, kind of almost looking like another animal, almost like a cow skull. big jaws, and when it growls, it kind of roars, but also what comes out is the voice of the woman that it killed. And so they've kind of merged together. Um, and it looks like it's in a lot of pain, and it's incredibly frightening. So it's one of the better creatures I've seen in recent years, movie monsters. And so yeah, it's pretty fucked up what happens. So basically, our crew begins to diminish until finally it's just down to um, Miss Natalie and the doctor, and um, basically they have made it to the shore, or the kind of end of the valley, which is a way out of the shimmer. So they've gone all the way through it, and they were trying to figure out ways. I mean, when they found the tape and everything, someone were like, "Let's get the hell out of here," but they're like, "No, we can't. We've got to keep going." The doctor's like, "I want to keep going," and one reason the doctor wants to keep going, we learned she has terminal cancer, and she wants to discover what this is all about before she dies. And they don't really say this, but there's the possibility that she's beginning to think that if this thing rearranges their DNA, maybe it will allow her to survive. I don't know. That's just a thought I'm throwing out there. It's not really explicit in the movie in any way, but it's kind of crossed my mind. So they make it to the end, and it's like a crystalline little tableau, and there's a building, and in the building, uh, there's another videotape, and they see what happened to Kane. And after they see what happened to Kane, well, first of all, something happens to the doctor, and it's amazing. Incredible effects, and her character transmogrifies, so to speak. So I guess she got her wish in a way. And so Natalie's face to face with essentially a being who had mimicked her husband. And this is a being spawned of the Shimmer. Maybe it's the Shimmer itself incarnate, um, and then it mimics her, and until it finally duplicates her and possibly absorbs her. And then you're not sure which is which is the real Natalie, which is the false one, who came back to the debriefing, to the decompression, and made it out. Um, so the ending has a twist on that, as to trying to find out who indeed. Um, I thought visually this movie was amazing. The sound design on the climactic scene is incredible, and the visuals, but the sound design is just amazing. Some heavy synthesizer, strange alien kind of sounds, and yeah, I love this movie. So another one I recommend. All strong female characters. Really, them being female is just incidental to it. They really don't make a big deal out of it. I mean, they kind of hint that the male characters are more your military grunts who are kind of going at it from that angle, and these women are more learned and intellectual, and they're going at it from a more exploratory angle. And I guess that's kind of a gender comment, on those characters, the gender stratification of the military men versus the scientific women. Even though like I said, a couple of the female characters, well, really all of them. Uh, well, I don't know, Natalie Portman and the doctor herself, and of course the one woman I mentioned, the Hispanic lady. They all have extensive military training. So Natalie herself has been in the military. That's where she met her husband. So check it out, Annihilation. Okay, so the last one I'm going to talk about is Mother. This one I've watched the least of these films. I've seen the least times. I've only seen it twice. I do want to revisit it soon, but I have a pretty clear memory of it. Um, this movie, when it came out, was kind of controversial. A lot of people didn't like it. It's made by Darren Aronofsky, who to me was on a roll early in his career with Pi, Requiem for a Dream, The Fountain, The Wrestler. All brilliant to me. My favorites are The Fountain and The Wrestler, which could not be more different from each other. And then he did Black Swan, and with Natalie Portman, ironically, and it was critically acclaimed. It was a little more commercially successful than his other movies, but I didn't really connect with it at all, to be honest. It had a good cast. I think Barbara Hershey's in it, Vincent Castle, and a few other people, but it didn't do it for me. Then he did one called Noah, and I'm generally not into biblical epic movies, especially modern ones. I mean, I love the Ten Commandments with Charlton Heston, um, but that didn't interest me at all. And I guess eventually, for completism's sake, I'll watch it. Uh, but obviously, with movies like Pi, where you have the Jewish Kabbalistic mysticism, and Noah, where you're getting into the Old Testament story, there's an underlying fascination with religion and a monotheistic religion and Judeo-Christian religion on the part of uh, the director. So, who also, largely writes his own stuff too. Um, Aronofsky's really one of the best working today, I think. And Mother is like an attempt, I think, by him to kind of do a Buñuel-like movie, a surrealist film, but it's also not just that it's kind of surrealistic. That doesn't really come towards the end, but the way he uses surrealism and things, it's very much a critique on. To me, it's very much a critique on religion, specifically on the Old Testament, um, and really everything is kind of like a symbol. All the characters are symbolic. I don't think any of them are really. I mean, they play them as real characters, especially Jennifer Lawrence, the star of the film, the titular mother, exclamation mark is the title. Um, and she's going to give birth to a child by Javier Bardem, or is it Javier? I don't know. But anyway, he's a creator, and he's kind of having block, and he kind of like locks himself into his room, and he's trying to get this taken care of so he can create more stuff. Um, so there you go. He's a creator, and she is kind of the Earth Mother. The she's keeping the hearth in the home, and I don't know if I should decode the movie or not, because the interesting thing is Aronofsky has done it himself, and to me, and once I got through the entire movie, it was totally obvious to me. While watching the movie, I was very frustrated the first time, because I thought the actions of the characters were outlandish, and the way that um, you know Jennifer's character was treated was horrible. By the way, her character, none of the characters really have names. They have some symbolic names in the credits, but um, it's basically a he and she thing, or man woman thing, kind of like in Antichrist, where it's just he and she, as Defoe and Gainsbourg. But so you know these characters really, what I realized at the end of the movie, and then shortly thereafter reading a little piece interview with Aronofsky, is that they're archetypes. They're all symbols. It's a totally an allegory, and it's a kind of an anti-clerical, um, critical of monotheistic and Judeo-Christian mythology, or religion, however you want to look at it. Um, Through that lens, which reminds me of Buñuel, in that it's outrageous and surreal at times, but that is its own comment on how the filmmaker. Well, in Buñuel's case, he was anti-clerical, so he was actually trying to show us, how ridiculous he thought Christianity was, and Catholicism, especially. But I think Aronofsky's doing the same thing, though, focusing on kind of the Jewish, the Old Testament, the Judeo part of the Judeo-Christian, and in that sense, I went back and rewatched the movie when I got it on Blu-ray, and it all made sense to me, and it was almost too obvious at times, which so I almost had another criticism of it. But for those both of those criticisms of it, of things that frustrated me or I thought were maybe weaknesses in the movie, it lingered with me. It stayed with me, And the story is very simple, and it kind of, well, basically, if you've read the Old Testament and can decode the story, you know the story. I mean, there's no surprises. Once you kind of know who represents who and what represents what conceptually, um, like I said, it's almost too obvious. Um, but that doesn't diminish on how well done it is. How intense it is, how emotionally powerful it is from the perspective of our lead character, played by Jennifer Lawrence. So she's another strong female character, and she kind of is the Earth Mother, and really, she kind of is the Earth itself. So that's the biggest clue I'm going to give you as far as to decoding what represents what in this movie. You need to find out for yourself, but I've given you a few other clues. Um, but yes, she is the divine feminine, and um, her husband, I guess he's the divine masculine, but another clue. But um, he doesn't seem like a cool guy at all. He mistreats her, and he lets people run all over her and even physically and psychologically abuse her in their own home, which she's trying to preserve. And yeah, I really can't say more without giving away what the central conceit is. But I do know a lot of people who either part with me on that or who concentrate on other aspects of the movie. As far as the latter, that's cool. I mean, I know people who concentrate on the anxiety suffered by her character, the she character, um, and the way she's mistreated, and her wanting to please her husband, and constantly everything going wrong, and she just keeps getting pushed and pushed and pushed until she loses it with very good reason, in just a mad scene that's just beyond the pale, out of control. And that's when it starts getting really Benwelly, and really absurd things start happening. And you start going, okay, I can't look at this movie literally anymore. Or it will frustrate and infuriate and confuse me. But look at it as, what it is, what it represents, and then you go, oh, I can go with it. See, because the formal aspects of it are so great, the acting, the photography, the music. It's just that the plot seems so, um, yeah, absurdist at times. It's not absurd like David Lynch absurd, surreal, but almost to the point where it's just you can't even hook onto it. But it's presented straight. It's played completely straight. However, the second time I watched it, knowing what some things represented, I did notice there was a certain glib quality to some of the characters, especially ones played by Ed Harris and Michelle Pfeiffer. That they are kind of ciphers, and the two characters who play their two sons, um, two actors who play their two sons, whatever. Um, it's hard to describe without giving away what I think is really about, and also what the director has stated pretty firmly that it's about. Though I know some people who have actually said he was just saying all that. That's not really true. It's not what it's about. I think it's super obvious. Um, but like I said, there's the kind of audience that parts with me on this and focuses on the emotional aspects of the character, that they identify with Jennifer's character. But there's nothing wrong with that interpretation. I mean, that's cool. That's what I was doing the first time I watched it, and that's why I was so frustrated. The other parting is that some people think it symbolizes other things altogether and has nothing to do or very little to do with religion or the Bible. But I have to strongly disagree with that position. I mean, just based on the evidence in front of me. But why don't you decide for yourself? Check it out, see what you think Mother is really about, and you feel free to share in the comments. I'm always pointing down to the comments because like down there you can subscribe and you can like give me a thumbs up, and then more people see my video, and I'll have internet stardom in no time. So I love you guys. Thanks for listening again to another laboriously long episode. But I do enjoy talking about these things, and I hope you'll check out some of the things I recommend, and if you've already seen them, give me some feedback on what you think they're alike or about, or if you like or dislike them, and why. Hopefully. So anyway, take care. See you soon. Bye bye.